It's the first time since 1971 since India engaged Pakistan the way it did. Many claims have been made by Pakistan in the last few days, especially in the last 11 days, if I can say that. And I have someone who's been monitoring what's happening in Pakistan very closely. It's a global perspective. And he's joining us on the show today here at republicworld.com. I have with me Tom Cooper. And Tom Cooper is an Austrian military historian and combat aviation analyst. Tom, it's been a week since the dust has settled. I'm sure by now you've had a chance to look at the proof emerging. Of course, the proof did come out in the first few hours and days. But now we have a comprehensive view of what really happened between India and Pakistan. And I'm more interested about Pakistan, the kind of losses they've suffered, because the story that they are trying to tell the world is far different from what we have seen. What's your analysis, your take on it, Tom?
Thank you very much for your invitation. Very nice to be with you. Well, Pakistan is claiming victory, and it has defeated the Syrians, and it has defeated the Romans, and India, and Mars people, and whoever else. And correspondingly, you know, the Prime Minister is on top of the tank. It's a victory, and General Munir has earned himself the rank of Field Marshal because he's so fantastic, and the commander of the Air Force is even better. So therefore, his tenure is going to be stretched for, you know, indefinitely. Who knows what? And all of this is based on their claims to have shot down 5, sometimes increased to 6 Indian aircraft, all of them during the Indian strike on terror camps in Pakistan and in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir on 7th of May. Essentially, it is like nothing has happened afterwards, except some, well, exchange of UAV strikes and a little bit of artillery shelling, and then, of course, Pakistani strikes, missile strikes on, well, they claim a total of 12 different facilities in India, or even 16. But essentially, the essence of the story is this. They have provided no evidence in support of their claims for shooting down 5 or 6 Indian aircraft. They have provided no firm evidence for any kind of serious damage on any of Indian military facilities. They have provided no evidence for any kind of claims to have caused severe damage to Indian armed forces in general. They are actually involved in face-saving measures, aiming to, well, distract their own population from few cold facts, which is that they have major problems with their own with protection of their own nuclear facilities, whether nuclear facilities for civilian purpose or nuclear weapon storage sites. They have a major problem insofar that all of their bluffs have been called by India and have been revealed as bluffs. They have a problem insofar that India has crossed several so-called red lines imposed by such like Munir, like by top Pakistani generals. And Pakistan, what has it done in reaction to this? Sent a single letter to the foreign ministry in New Delhi requesting India to rethink its position on the Indus Water Treaty. So for a nuclear power, very lame reaction, obviously out of position to do anything meaningful against India, but on the other hand, not or refusing to accept the fact that reality is fundamentally different than that aired by official Islamabad for decades already. So it is a very, very strange situation. My contacts in Pakistan, for example, they are all refusing to talk with me. Some are accusing me of
what are they telling you? What are they telling you, Tom?
For research and analysis wing and whatever else.
Okay.
But today, generally, there is refusal to accept the reality that Pakistan has been actually disarmed of its nuclear weapons and is in no position to do more but sue for a break, not even a ceasefire. It cannot demand a ceasefire from India, but it must well sound a stop of Indian attacks. Otherwise, the country is going to fall apart, obviously.
Now, Tom, I'll hold you to that point where you said, you know, Pakistan has been disarmed, even its nuclear program has been hit, right? I did a program on that, and a lot of people in India have been very keen on what happened in the Kirana Hills. I saw some of the videos. We had about 6 videos that came into our newsrooms. All of them from around the Sargodha Air Base, right? Sargodha Air Base to this Kirana Hills is roughly about 7 to 8 kilometers as the crow flies.
Yes.
Right? And in the videos, you can see 2 or 3 missiles dropping at the base of the hills. That is clear in the video.
Yes.
And then there is satellite imagery, proof that shows that the air base was hit in Sargodha.
As well, yes.
Yeah. Now, what is the destruction to their nuclear program as you know it, backed by the proof that you have?
Well, I have no better evidence than you have, but the point is this. Work on underground facilities on Kirana Hills has been monitored internationally since at least 2017. You can follow this online from different agencies around the world. So there was definitely evidence also about the presence of so-called TELs. This is transporter electro launchers, as used to transport and launch Pakistani ballistic missiles. So now the question is, why do you construct an underground facility with at least 2 entrances, if not up to 10 different entrances, in the northwestern corner? This is the furthermost away from India of this huge facility. It is stretching over several kilometers. Why do you construct such underground facilities in that place? That is the first question. Due to its proximity to the missile garrison of the Pakistan Air Force in Kirana Hills, it was promptly declared, or assumed at least, for a nuclear weapon storage facility. So when one compares the videos showing the strikes of Indian missiles, I'm calling them Indian missiles because I doubt that it is Pakistanis who are shooting on their own underground facilities on Kirana Hills. And perhaps Pakistani army has really dug out tunnels, you know, in order to grow mushrooms or something else inside. Who can say, because they have never declared it to New Delhi as a nuclear facility. So anyway, when you have seriously now, when you have such a facility 1 or 2 kilometers away from bunkers known to house TELs for ballistic missiles, then it's very practical that the Pakistanis have put their nuclear warheads into this facility, into these tunnels, in order to, in the case of emergency, quickly bring them to hangars with their TELs, with missiles, install them on missiles and shoot them on India. But in this case, India has hit at least 2, perhaps even 3, of such entrances into underground facility. And this is crucial. It did not strike facility itself, but entrances. Why? Because once you hit the facility, you never know what happens. And B, because if you hit the entrance, then you know what happens. So what happens when you hit the entrance? You block the entrance. Because in order to dig a tunnel inside such a hill, you have to first excavate a very long, narrow way to approach the actual tunnel under the hill. And if you hit this narrow approach, this entrance, then the entry and the exit is blocked. Nobody can go in to pick up some nukes, for example, or come out carrying the nukes. The Pakistanis first have to make the way free. And this is probably keeping them busy since days. That's the point about this. So why doing this? In order to demonstrate, to make it clear to Islamabad, guys, we are vastly superior. We can hit anything we want to hit in Pakistan. And we can also disarm you without actually hitting your nuclear weapons. We can disarm you. You are not nuclear power anymore. You are just in possession of nuclear, or in theoretical possession of so many nuclear warheads, but you're not in control over them. And that is, this is the kind of shock you need to shake such people like in control in Islamabad down from their tree and to with both feet on the ground to realize that they are in no position to continue fighting.
Well, I feel good hearing that, right?
Of course, yes,
But
I can imagine that. Yeah.
but obviously, for obvious reasons, our military officers, those who addressed the news conferences when the question was asked, clearly they admitted to striking the Sargodha airbase, saying that yes, we hit the Sargodha airbase.
Yes.
The response was Kirana Hills. We didn't know, nuclear, material was there. You saw that response come in from
Yes.
the DG Air Force, right? Now, my question is, how many years does that strike take back Pakistan? How many years will they take to recover from this?
It depends. On one side, I said you have this denial reality in Islamabad. They are doing as if nothing happened, at least officially to the public. If they are acting the same way in private, between each other, between politics and generals, it might take 20 years. Because what they need is people who are realistic enough to say, okay, we have really got smashed here and we have been disarmed. We are really at mercy of India. And we need to realize this, all of us, plus the entire nation. And then we have to rebuild our capabilities. Or actually not only rebuild them, because they were obviously insufficient, but significantly bolster of capabilities. Right now, I do not see this kind of behavior in Islamabad. Not in Islamabad, not in Karachi, not anywhere else, in Quetta or wherever else in Pakistan. So, but if they would have such people, then it would take a few days to unearth these entries and clean them and gain approach to the nuclear warheads, if there are any in these installations. Here we have to keep in mind, India is all the time carefully monitoring. Fighting stopped at 17 o'clock local time on 10th of May. This is now 11 days ago. But for 11 days, India is carefully monitoring every single move on Kirana Hills. When there is a vehicle moving, driving from point A to point B, India sees that, whether by satellites or by UAVs. And this is, of course, not an easy task because you need this kind of monitoring really 24/7. Because if you miss just one vehicle or a small convoy of vehicles passing from left to right or up and down the facility, you might have missed already something important. This is really so critical because who knows, when you have people who are so much involved into denying reality, and they can come to crazy idea and really manage to mount one of nukes on their missiles and fire it in India. Shouldn't mean that India is automatically going to be, that there is going to be a nuclear detonation. It is very likely because the Indian air defense system was working that well that this missile is going to be shot down. But it's a different story. I'm talking about you have to prevent such an eventuality. You don't want to play with such situations. You have to take them seriously. And we have seen that alone from these strikes on Kirana Hills, the commanders in New Delhi are extremely serious, extremely cautious, extremely conservative. Name it whatever you like. It is anything but bragging or keen to boast or about the situation. They have come to the conclusion we can strike anything we want to strike inside Pakistan, and then we need to send them a serious message, clear message, in order to force them into realization that they have been defeated. That we don't need to destroy every single brigade and division of Pakistani army or every single squadron of Pakistani Air Force. No, we need just to hit the entrances to their nuclear weapon storage facility, and they should figure out from this that they have lost. That's the entire purpose of this. Now, of course, generals in such positions are not going to brag to you in the open on the TV. Oh, we are so great, we have blown them away or something else. No, they are serious enough. They are calculated enough. They are conscious enough to say, well, translated his statement by commander of the Indian Air Force. Well, they didn't declare this nuclear facility as a nuclear facility to us. So thank you very much for letting us know that it is there. We didn't strike it. That they have targeted something else. So he has it easy to explain it away, because officially, at least according to official Islamabad, this is no nuclear facility.
Yeah. I mean, I can't help but contrast, the response from the Indian generals, and that's been how dignified our armed forces have been traditionally.
Yeah.
And you compare that to the braggadocio, the false braggadocio on the
Yeah.
Pakistani side. It's how do I put it? It's unfortunate, and I don't even think the people of Pakistan are buying it. Right? People of Pakistan are not even buying it. See, when India struck, we showed them proof. We had videos. Videos of the missiles being dropped. Satellite images that showed the damage afterwards. And I think this has been a change in the way we have operated compared to the previous Balakot strikes.
Yes.
You know what happened in 2019?
Fundamental.
Yeah?
Yep.
Fundamental change.
Yes.
And even the Pakistani media had to admit it, that the headquarters of the Lashkar-e-Toiba was hit, that the headquarters of the Jaish-e-Mohammed was hit. And these are seminaries that have sent terrorists to countries across the world, including in Europe. Many attacks have taken place in Europe, and they were all trained here.
I mean, from Nigeria to the Philippines.
Yeah.
Really. We are talking about people who grew the original idea of hijacking passenger aircraft and flying them into selected targets. Like Ramzi Youssef, who is a Pakistani, who developed this idea already in 1992, wanted to hijack 12 aircraft and fly them into selected targets in the Philippines and several different places. Who wanted to assassinate the Pope as well. And he was subsequently arrested by Pakistani authorities and handed over to the United States, and is ever since sitting in some jail in the United States. But he was a Pakistani, trained by Pakistani inter-service intelligence in Pakistan, in one of the terror camps, which official Pakistan says are not existing. And on the other hand, when you see the videos of state-sponsored funerals for this, well, according to official Islamabad, they are nobodies. Yeah. So if these people are nobodies, why do you organize a state funeral? State-sponsored funeral, and the entire first 3 rows of people who are there are Pakistan Army officers. I mean, excuse me, but what? And then there are also reports that several officers of the Pakistan Army were hit and killed in Indian strikes on terror camps. So what are the officers of the Pakistan Army doing at night? What was that? What was the time? 1:20, 1:50 in the morning, something like that. So what are they doing? No, excuse me, the combination. Pakistan Army officers and women and children in the madrasa by night. I mean, what kind of explanation is this?
What's your number?
So
Do you have a number of how many Pakistani officers were inside that madrasa?
I don't have specific numbers, but I know that several have been killed. And for me, this is a clear indication of, I mean, I've got this from a private contact. So for me, this is a clear indication of inter-service intelligence presence at the sites that were hit by Indian bombs and missiles on 7th of May in the morning. So, and when Pakistanis say, actually, they are not commenting at all. If at all, they say, "No, what terror camps? We don't have terror camps." That was in 1980s, and then it was everything was CIA controlled. But check the book, Afghanistan: The Bear Trap. It was written by former director of Afghan Bureau of Inter-Service Intelligence, and he's explained that the entire schematics, how it was working back then, it is working until today that way, which means the inter-service intelligence is in charge. It is picking officers from different branches of the armed forces. They are serving with the inter-service intelligence. They are then commanding. They are deciding what of groups are they going to support, which group is going to receive how much money, what kind of equipment and weaponry, supplies, whatever. And they are also directing them. They are commanding them to strike this or that target. So when it comes to Indian Parliament, New Delhi, when this was attacked by jihadists, or whether it was Mumbai or whatever, it was always on order from inter-service intelligence. And these are Pakistan armed officers of Pakistani armed services, and not some, somebody who fell from Mars or from Jupiter and now came to the idea to order the jihadists into attacks.
Now, when you look at the losses, right now, I'm just going through what's in the public domain, right?
Okay.
You have on record India saying we have bombed and we have proof of bombing, demolishing at least 9 terror headquarters, terror sites of Pakistan.
Yes.
We have at least 11 to 12 air bases that were struck by Indian missiles. We had the entire air defense of Pakistan that was effectively disabled by India, right? Many radars, air defense radars across different cities were disabled completely. You had obviously Chinese hardware compromised because their air defense was, funded by the Chinese to a large extent. You had, I don't have the official number, but we know, and even the Indian Air Force has gone on record to say that a few jets were downed by India. Now, I don't have a number on that. Now, there were thousands of drones that we have sort of toasted in the skies, right? What is the number that you have, your assessment of the real-time military damage that they have inflicted? And my second part of the question is that, now a reflection of the quality of the kind of military hardware that they've had, mostly from China?
You mean
Pakistani
losses and casualties goes to Pakistan or to India?
Because of India to Pakistan, to Pakistani military hardware.
Well, as far as I can say, first and foremost, there was this artificial intelligence supported command center at Nur Khan Air Base. This is a trailer mounted or installed system that are two very long, big trucks with trailers on top of them, full of computers, full of highly qualified personnel. So the Pakistani Air Force is so highly professional that it put this truck, in the center of the base, these two trucks, without any kind of protection, without any attempt to fortify, to conceal them under the camouflage nets or something else. That is what you see on pre-strike satellite photograph. And then post-strike imagery is showing both trucks blown away, smashed to pieces and to wreckage. What more do we want? I mean, this is the headquarter of the integrated air defense system of Pakistan. Okay, theoretically, it's the secondary replacement headquarter for the case that the main headquarter is hit, which is underground. But if you let such an expensive, sensitive installation unprotected this way and then smashed to pieces by Indians, then don't explain around that you are highly professional, if nothing else. It is a major mistake. That is first point. Second point, you have air bases like whether it's now Shahbaz outside of Jacobabad or Bolari or whatever, Sagoda, yes, Mushaf Air Base. Hits on and what kind of hits? Not just hit on a hangar out of the blue and nothing happened and nothing was inside. No, you have clear evidence that Indian armed forces have tracked a Saab 2000 AWACS aircraft, airborne early warning and control aircraft, extremely expensive aircraft, extremely important for the overall function of the Pakistani Air Force. Sorry, so. They have tracked it in operations, then tracked it as it was landing, rolled into this hangar, and minutes later, boom, there is a hit, hangar is ripped open, the aircraft is, as far as is known, damaged. The commander of the squad, of the Pakistani squadron, operating such aircraft was killed. One of the 5 Pakistani Air Force officers killed inside that hangar, and 40 plus others wounded. I mean, this is not happening by accident. This is an extremely precise strike, targeting precisely the people who matter in the Pakistan Air Force. Because training the crew of an aircraft is relatively easy, but training the operators of such an aircraft like Saab 2000, that is taking years. This is not an easy task because these are the brains of the Pakistani Air Force. They know, what to do. They know how to position their interceptors properly. In what case for example, Indian Air Force is coming with 3 aircraft over there, 5 aircraft down there. How many own aircraft from what base to scramble? How should they be armed, and how from which direction to attack them? This is all done by the crew of a Saab 2000, not by somebody else, not by the pilots themselves. So these are battle planners. They are strategists and tacticians, and they have been killed and wounded, and that by scores. And this has happened not only at Bolari. We know precisely because of one social media post, another indication of Pakistani Air Force professionalism post on the social media, and he describes it, lists down all the losses and so on. Then we have Gujranwala garrison, which is one of the nuclear command centers which has been hit. There is also a nice satellite photograph of it, and there are lots of indications that Pakistan has received severe blows. One could also follow. It was also a funny story. Again, Pakistan Air Force professionalism in action. One of the officers of the HQ-9 SEM system protecting Karachi was all the time posting photographs of his equipment in concealed camouflage positions around the city, in the outskirts of the city. And he was all the time posting this in the social media. You could follow them live, and in every single photograph he has posted, it was possible to geolocate it. So to say precisely where they are. So why are you hiding your SEM sites, your HQ-9, if you are then revealing this in the social medias for everybody to see? Yeah. And what a surprise, this was hit, and pieces were flying all over the sky. And then, of course, it was a exaggeration that Karachi was destroyed. Somebody started spreading such rumors and so on. But no, this this HQ-9 was hit, and not all of its elements were destroyed, but the most important, the radar, the fire control radar, and several launchers were destroyed. This is what matters, and why were they destroyed? Why did India destroy just this? Because they were precisely targeting crucial elements of that system. They did not go for complete destruction of the entire system. And in some cases, some of the launchers are positioned a little bit too close to the civilian buildings nearby. So nobody wanted to target such things, because if you hit a launcher full of missiles, it's going to blow up and could cause major conflagration and civilian victims as well. No, you hit the radar, you hit the launcher which is further away. And this is enough. You have sent a message, you have destroyed the ability. That's enough. It would, in such cases, because earlier you have asked me how long would it take for them to recover. Well, it's going to take at least 1 or 2 weeks for the Chinese to organize another shipment of HQ-9s to Pakistan. All provided, and don't forget about this, we are always talking about this brotherhood between China and Pakistan, or some sort of strategic alliance. That used to be that way, no dispute about this. But Chinese are meanwhile orientating in different direction. If you are economically interesting for them, then it's fine, like Iran is currently. But if you're behaving like Pakistan, and then de facto sabotage your attempts to penetrate the local economy and to establish yourself, your presence, and establish the country as your market, then you are not very friendly to China anymore. So what is now important is for example, Qatar to say, okay, we are ready to finance yet more Chinese weapons, and then Pakistan is going to get more replacements for what it has lost. But if not, then Pakistan is in deep trouble, as we have seen also from this IMF loan. Last year, Islamabad first asked Beijing for this loan, and Beijing said, look, we send our officials and our people to plan the trace for this new Silk Road, yeah. And what is happening? Locals are attacking them, assaulting and offending them. Why should we help you financially? If you are not taking care about your economy, your own problem. And they didn't grant this loan. So Pakistan ended begging for this loan at IMF. And IMF, for totally unexplainable reasons, says yes in the middle of the war, although knowing that already before war, Islamabad was unable to service its debts.
To ask you, the final set of my questions will be around
No problem.
the takeaway of happens to the Chinese. I mean, do you think this has been, in a sense, an advertisement of what the Chinese missile capability, their military hardware capability really is? Point number one. And two, the second aspect of it, also for us, one of the biggest takeaways has been the success of the Indian indigenous capability, our drones, our missile defense systems, our air radars, right? I want you to talk about both. What you saw in terms of how the Chinese equipment failed vis-a-vis the Indian indigenous victory.
I wouldn't go as far as to say that Chinese weapons failed on their own. It is not to blame. They are not to blame. It is the fault of how the Pakistanis use this weaponry. They have achieved a surprise in the first night during Indian airstrikes on terror camps. In so far, because there was something like unwritten rule, perhaps it was written somewhere, I don't know, but unwritten rule not to shoot over the international border. So when Indian aircraft came in to launch their missiles, the Pakistanis opened fire from very long range, from up to 150, 200 kilometers away, over the international border at incoming Indian aircraft, while these were 100, 120, perhaps even further kilometers away from the border, still approaching Pakistan. And it seems that some of Su-30s were even forced to jettison one or two Brahmos and turn away in order to evade incoming Pakistani missiles of Chinese origin. So missiles themselves and the weaponry supplied by China to Pakistan was not to blame. Under good circumstances, under favorable circumstances, they are excellent. But it's what the Pakistanis doing with them. Because after that initial strike, when India did not expect Pakistanis to shoot into Indian airspace, Pakistan Air Force did not score even a single additional kill. So how comes? On 9th of May, Pakistan Air Force was out and trying to strike into India, and did not achieve anything but lost several aircraft. So there were still Chinese weapons, which were such a surprise for India on the first night, but afterwards there were no surprise anymore. So this is then on Pakistanis to blame, because they did not find any kind of tactical methods to keep these weapons effective, while Indians have very quickly found countermeasures against such weaponry. So it is really Pakistan to blame and not the Chinese weapons. That is on one side. On the other side, the Chinese weapons are definitely something one must take seriously. This is something I'm also preaching for years already. I mean, at earlier times, yeah, sure. Weaponry manufactured, as late as of 2010, Chinese weaponry was not a particularly good quality. If nothing else, they would make UAVs, reconnaissance UAVs, and this would start falling apart after 6 months of heavy use. And there were similar accidents or incidents in several other countries. This one was from Saudi Arabia. So now, but that was 15 years ago. And you can't forever expect the Chinese to continue manufacturing on such poor quality. Sooner or later, they're going to catch, and then they're going to improve. And this is already happening. And the PL-15 is a good evidence for this. So that is in regards to Chinese weaponry. Again, Chinese are not to blame for their weaponry failing while operated by Pakistan. This is Pakistan to blame. As simple as that. And regarding Indian weaponry, people like me, we were busy the last 2 or 3 years monitoring what is going on between Ukraine and Russia. And we are monitoring, deployment of very different weaponry, and with both sides not revealing very much. We are extremely busy, trying to find out more details, trying to find contacts that are ready to talk at least anonymously about them and so on. And amid all of this, the development of, for example, Indian capabilities in regards of UAVs, of countering UAVs, of operating UAVs, Indian capabilities in regards of air defenses against UAVs, against incoming artillery rockets. These are rockets with a range of up to 150 kilometers, unguided missiles, not missiles, but rockets. And then in regards to capability to shut down or to intercept, ballistic missiles grew up really by a magnitude, and this was underreported. So nobody was aware of it and too busy with something else. And all of a sudden, there is an Indian air defense system, this is fantastic, because this is such a huge country. India is so huge. As I told you earlier, I mean, New Delhi alone is the size of Austria. So now all of a sudden, this country is capable of providing effective air defense over a front line, of at least 500 kilometers. This is on north-south axis from something like central Kashmir down to, let's say, Bhavatpur or this area. Rajasthan, exactly, yes. So, and now compare the size of this battlefield with that in Israel. And arguably, Iranian ballistic missiles are much more advanced than a Pakistani. But the Israeli air defense system was not as effective. On the contrary, it failed. It was partially even hacked by Palestinians, not only by Iranians. So the air defense systems were failing. They're oversaturated, and there were, how many, 30-something hits on Tel Nov air base, which nobody wants to show in the West. So Israel is the least. But in the case of India, Pakistan is threw so much at its air defenses, and these were holding out. And while to make sure, it is not like they have shut down everything 100%. On the contrary, at most they have hit 90% of incoming Pakistani artillery rockets and UAVs. But what came through was insufficient to cause serious damage. Actually, I've heard from several contacts in India that most of damage was caused by falling debris, which means a missile is intercepted or UAV is intercepted and its pieces are falling down, crashing to the ground, setting something on fire or penetrating the roof, damaging the building, causing injuries to civilians and to military personnel alike. Happens. It is sad, but happens. But fact is, in grand total, Pakistani UAV strikes and artillery rocket strikes, even ballistic missile strikes were ineffective. And not to talk about airstrikes, they have deployed also guided bombs, or at least attempted to deploy them. And this was not effective either. So whatever Pakistan threw at India was successful. Why? Because it had, and that on time, developed effective countermeasures, developed effective, in order to develop effective countermeasures, you need to collect extremely precise intelligence about the capabilities of enemy weaponry. Because what Pakistan has deployed in this regard are little known Turkish UAVs, for example, like or loitering guided ammunition. So, but India has obtained intelligence about them, knew how to counter them, has developed, for example, this D4 belt D4 anti-UAV system, and then manufactured and purchased this in sufficient numbers to cover most of this front line along which most of fighting took place. So this is also an achievement on itself. And not to forget, it's not just a weaponry, it's not just electronic warfare system, but it is the integration of the Indian Army air defense system, Akashter, if I'm not wrong. Akashter, yes. Yeah. This system with the integrated air defense system of the Air Force. Why is this important? So that the Air Force knows what is the Army doing, and the Army, even more important, knows what is the Air Force doing. Otherwise, it can easily happen. We have had this in Russia. We have had this in Ukraine. We have had this even with US and British troops in Iraq or 2003, that the two start shooting at each other. That means, for example, Indian aircraft are approaching Pakistani border, guaranteed to pass this or that Indian Army base, and the Indian Army base opens fire at Indian Air Force aircraft. You don't want this to happen. So what do? You integrate the radar pictures from dozens of radars operated by the Army and by the Air Force. And this sounds easy, but in reality is extremely complex process which is taking years. Yet, however, Indian technicians, engineers, companies in the defense sector and the armed forces have managed to find a solution and have developed a highly efficient air defense system, which is integrating all the input from so many radar stations, from observation posts, from units equipped with electronic warfare systems, and all of this is working. That is a nice thing about this. It is really working, because I know I can list you dozens of examples where the integrated air defense systems are not working. Just for example, Russian air defense system on the occupied Crimean peninsula in Ukraine. If you hit whenever Ukrainians hit one of its SAM sites, the entire system crashes. The rest of the system crashes. Why? Why the software cannot remain functional if the system loses one of its principal elements. You don't have such a problem in India. It's as simple as that. So you have, in the Russian case, you have to reboot the entire system, which is taking minutes, during which the system is not non-operational. But in India, nothing similar is happening. So this is, a magnitude worth of difference.
Fantastic. I mean, it's just hearing you is so fascinating, because I think what we have somewhere in the last 2 weeks struggled to sort of, sit down, analyze, put together the bits and pieces to get a full picture. And I think people are now starting to analyze in greater detail. So Tom, it's been fantastic talking to you. This is what you do full time. You're a military historian and an observer. So you put it beautifully though for all our viewers, and look forward to talking to you once again. Hopefully it doesn't flare up this much before we speak again, but hopefully we will.
I hope the same. I know that the Indian Air Force remains on high alert in regards to Pakistan, and they are careful monitoring. So I hope cooler heads prevail over there in Islamabad, and we need not talking about things of this kind, because actually it's not pleasant, But anyway, thank you very much for inviting me. Very much my pleasure to chat with you and to have this opportunity to discuss this topic with people like you.
Yeah, good to talk to you. And in India, I just heard a quote from one of the generals saying, "Picture abhi baki hai," which means "Picture abhi baki hai" means that the final verdict is yet to come. The climax is pending. So let's wait and watch for that one. Thank you, Tom. Good to talk to you.